Good afternoon. Today's discussion for the 2014 Dynamic Engineers product brochure is with respect to the category of clock oscillators, or XOs. XOs, or clock oscillators, are devices that do not have a voltage control function. There is no frequency versus voltage functional pad or pin signal function. So the customer cannot change the frequency by changing a voltage. The clock comes in with a certain tolerance of frequency and they cannot change it. Which, for many applications, that's not a big deal. Clock oscillators are generally used as the frequency reference for looser applications, such as a microprocessor chip needs to have a stable timing for their internal clocking in terms of the different communication functions that a microprocessor, their instruction set, right? They're sending their instruction set out at a certain megahertz rate. So you have a clock that serves as the reference to the internal circuits of the microprocessor. Sometimes they use just crystals for that as well. But generally speaking, Dynamic Engineers wants to provide a clock oscillator solution for those applications, but usually it's going to be niche because mainly the XO market, or the clock oscillator market, is very much a commodity market, and you will find that there's very little custom niche design opportunity for XOs. A given purchasing department in one of your accounts, they may have 4 or 5 different large volume vendors already qualified for an XO opportunity. So those kinds of me too second source opportunities, there's multiple vendors already on the qualified vendor list, are generally opportunities we'll have a much tougher time, Dynamic Engineers, winning those opportunities for you. So we have clock oscillators. We can work with the customer with them. There's not a problem with that. But I think what will happen is that clock oscillators and VCXOs, which are clock oscillators, but they also have a voltage control function, the commodity type parts, we will tend to win orders for the niche versions of those. Fast delivery versions or very low phase noise. But we do have a number of general models, 1.8 volts, 2.5 volts, 3.3 volts, CMOS output generally, 1 megahertz to 200 megahertz generally. And again, these are very, very low cost, sub $1 type parts. So these accounts might not be ideal for Dynamic Engineers. 20 to 25 part per million stability. Again, not parts per billion, but parts per million. Minus 40 to 85. There are opportunities where for a particular customer we can satisfy a certain stability level over a wider temp range. If your customer happens to need minus 55 to 125, we consider that a high temperature category of XOs. We certainly can look at those and source those because those will be much higher selling price opportunities. Maybe that customer's only using a few thousand a year. So those we can look at as well. But we do have clock oscillators in all the various sizes. And what I want to point out, even though I have it in a separate category, it's still a clock oscillator. And I call those software-defined clock oscillators. What I mean by that is internal to the design, our factory, our office, depending on who has the programmer, can make, through software commands, create a discrete frequency, any frequency the customer wants, out to 6 digits of resolution. So 13.666666 megahertz, we can generate that frequency clock. We can ship that in under 2 weeks. We have LVDS output. We have up to 1.5 gigahertz or 1500 megahertz maximum output frequency for LVDS and PECL outputs. So we do have the ability, in a given situation when a customer needs quick delivery on a clock oscillator at a very oddball frequency, we want to deal with those opportunities as much as possible because we have a very fast response time. Many times the customer will design in our software-defined module even though we're doing them a favor to get them to them quickly, they design us in as the production unit, and you win business that way. So in clock oscillators or in voltage controlled crystal oscillators, VCXOs, we have software-defined modules both in the product brochure and on our website. 5 by 7 millimeter. In 6 months to a year, we'll have 5 by 3 millimeter. We'll have 3 by 2 millimeter. There are other competitors in this programmable oscillator space, but instead of using the words programmable, because that's sort of a dirty word right now in the industry, because programmable goes back 20 years. The technology of the integrated circuits and the synthesizers 20 years ago was not as good as it is now. Software defined means next generation IC design circuits, next generation synthesizer topologies. These next generation products are much better for phase noise than their original parents back 20 years ago. So you will compete with various companies on these parts, but whoever gets the parts shipped quickest will have the advantage. So we certainly don't mind doing software-defined XOs and VCXOs and surface mount. And for that matter, we could even do an integrated module. If a customer needed an older package, oddball frequency XO, say in a DIP package at 52.7934 megahertz, we would take one of these 5 by 7 modules, again, put it on a motherboard inside the bigger package, and there you go. We have a design for a clock oscillator reference for a customer. So I would definitely consider our software-defined modules for those kind of opportunities where delivery is the priority. Thank you very much.